Hey guys, Papa Pete here, back for another episode of INTY Homebrew Spotlight. And today, I'm going to take a look at the game H.E.L.I, which is really kind of right back in the limelight now. It's a game by Carlos Madruga, which was originally released by Intellivision Revolution back in November of 2020. It's a port of the original Atari 2600 game released by Activision that was called H.E.L.I. HERO stood for Helicopter Emergency Rescue Operation, and HELI, a little bit different, it's Helicopter Emergency Life-Saving Incorporation. Carlos Madruga was the lead programmer for this game, but he had other people. It was a really great collaboration that created it. The graphics are done by Tix, the sounds are done by Oscar himself, Nanochess, and the music in the game is done by Yandere, who I recently talked about in my last episode. He is creating the music for the release of Infiltrator coming out this upcoming November from Electronite, and also Carlos Madruga. Anyway, let's take some time and take a look at this game and see what I think, because it's recently become available not only by the original release, which right now is sold out, but it's also available in unencrypted ROM form from Carlos himself. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. In the meantime, stick around. Let's take a look at H.E.L.I.
Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. If you haven't grown up by the age of 50, you don't have to.
So you may be familiar with the actual premise of the game of H.E.L.I. The object of the game is to rescue miners that have been trapped down in the depths of a mine by volcanic activity. And all what you have to use is you have your prop pack, which is a helicopter backpack that is attached to you, lets you fly down through the caves, as well as your helmet-mounted micro laser beam, which you can use to zap all kinds of different creatures which are trying to stop you or get in your way, keep you from rescuing the miners. And you also have TNT, or dynamite, that you use to blow up different barriers that are in your way, such as certain walls or maybe some other blockages in the floor. Just like in real life, when you're down in the cage, you have to have a light source. So you have to be careful when you're flying through, not to run into the lights and knock them out, because when you're in total darkness, it makes it a lot more difficult to navigate through those caves. In total, there are 23 different levels of this game, where you have to start at the top and work your way through the labyrinth and rescue your miner. And it takes a real hero to be able to rescue them all. See what I did with that? You like that? Huh? Anyway, guys, let's take a look at this version of the game to see just how it holds up against the one from the past. Right off the bat, I'm going to say that the graphics in H.E.L.I. are very good. Tix has done a great job of recreating what was in the original game, plus using the advanced capabilities of the Intellivision to make these graphics even better, adding more details to things such as the background. The walls have curvature and marks in them to show like it's a rock wall, and it's also clearly differentiates between like the floor and the different barriers, the walls that are that you also see in the screen. There's lava walls in there. They all look very different. And he really did a great job of changing the way these things look from the original game, which was based just upon colors, different things of different colors. But everything was solid in that game. This one has actually got quite a bit of detail in it. Now, our H.E.L.I, which is what the character's known of in the game according to the manual, actually has a lot more detail as well than in the original version. So it looks very good. Sometimes you try to do too much with the sprites that you have, but not this one. This one's done, I think, just perfectly. The character looks really good as you're flying him around. Very easy to see the different parts of him. And very, again, I say this is a key to be able to differentiate between what you're seeing on the screen. Sometimes things sort of blend together. Not in this game. It's very clear, it's very crisp, and very appealing to the eyes. Now, some people may be saying, I mentioned about the detail in the background and how it actually makes it look like a rock wall. Some people may say they really like the way the original one depicted it with the solid colors. And if you did, well, you could play that too. As a matter of fact, you can even play a combination of both. But I'll get into some more details on that later, but it's a really interesting thing that they've done with this game. Bluntly, the sounds in H.E.L.I. are excellent. Whether it's the whirring of the prop pack on your back as you fly, whether it's the sound of the laser coming out and the high-pitched noise, or even, the fuse burning and the explosion, the detonation of the TNT as it goes off. It all sounds very, very good. NanoChess has done a great job with the sounds. Even the sound that when you die is really appealing. It sounds really good, even though I suppose you shouldn't want to hear that one very often. Yandere has done an equally great job with the music. There's different tunes that play when you're flying around. There's even the tune that plays when you rescue a miner that's really good. And last but not least, I suppose, is the tune that plays when the game ends and it's game over. I don't know what else to say other than NanoChess and Yandere. They both did a fantastic job on the sounds in this game. HELI is a one-player only game, and although there are 23 different levels of this game, they're always the same every time you play. Is that a problem? I don't really think so. I think it's what is to be expected of a game of this genre, or of this generation, let's say. The sheer number makes that a good variation in my mind. There's always room to improve. It really takes a lot of skill to get down and to get through all of those different levels, because the difficulty ramps up as you go along. Now, a factor that really improves the variation capabilities of this game are the codes that Carlos has entered into it, has created that you can put in and change different aspects of the game. Like, for example, there's a code that you can enter to go into a training mode, and then you can play the game where you're invincible and you have unlimited TNT. Not only that, there's various codes you can enter for graphic differences. For example, remember I said before about how some people may really like that Atari 2600 version? You could play it here too. All you have to do is enter the code 2600 2600, and all of a sudden you're playing a version of the game that is graphically almost identical to the original Atari 2600 version. Everything's solid block. It looks really good. It looks like the original version. Let's say you're sort of split between the two. You may like the Atari 2600 version, but you also like the new version. Well, how about splitting it right down the middle and entering a version? I found this quite ingenious, really. Entering a version called Plimpton mode, where you enter the year of George Plimpton's birth, 1927, and then it alternates level to level between Stella mode and regular Intellivision mode. What a great idea! Now, another graphical variation, I'll call it, is Christmas mode. All you do is enter the code 1225. And all of a sudden the sprites all change, and no longer are you playing as our HELI trying to rescue miners. You're Santa Claus trying to rescue Rudolph from a band of evil goblins who have kidnapped him and put him down in the bottom of a cave. It really is a neat, different variation. The gameplay is the exact same. The music's different though, because they play Christmas carols instead of the normal music that's in the game. So really it's a great variation to have on the same cartridge or same ROM as the original. Like I said before, those are really graphical. They aren't really gameplay variations. But if you want to get into gameplay variations, there's also a dark mode. And if you enter dark mode, like it says, every screen that you go into is dark. I mentioned before how you have to stay away from the lights. If you hit a light, the lights go out and you have to navigate through. Basically, you can't see the path that you have to take without lighting up a bomb or lighting up your laser or whatever to try to hit it. You can enter dark mode, so every level is dark. Very, very challenging. But the actual best variation as far as gameplay goes, in my opinion, is bottoms up mode. If you enter the code for bottoms up mode, it reverses the position of the miner and where you start as our HELI. So in other words, wherever the miner was in the original version, you start there and have to work your way up through the maze to rescue the miner at the top. It seems simple enough, but it's actually incredible how much variation that creates, how different that is, how you have to adjust your gameplay and your strategy as you go up through in the opposite direction. Very interesting. I'm going to use the word again, very ingenious to be able to work that in, and it's a great addition to this ROM, once again, to give it a little bit more variability for the player. It's pretty hard to hide my enthusiasm for HELI, I'll tell you that. Hero, the original game for Atari 2600, was on so many people's favorites lists. Even though I didn't play it back in the day, I could sure see why now, after playing it so much, how it was that favorite for so many people. I mean, with the graphics, the sounds, the gameplay itself, not to mention the variations on this game, man, I have to give HELI by Carlos Madruga a 9 out of 10 rating. Once again, I want to remind you that Intellivision Revolution is the original publisher of this game, and although they're currently sold out of them and it's not on their website, it will be again in the future. Rev has told me there will be physical copies. I myself only have the digital copy that I picked up from Carlos, but I can't wait to add that physical copy into my collection. As you can see, I love the physical copies of these homebrew games, and it is a top quality gatefold box release with the manual, with the overlays and everything, and I really can't wait to add that physical copy back into my collection. But in the meantime, go to Atari Age. I'll put the details of how you can do that down below. Contact Carlos and you can order the game directly from him for only $10, and it comes with all of the different the bonus features, the graphics, the manual, the overlay graphics, not to mention the prototypes of the earlier versions of the game. And it's just phenomenal to have programmers like this make these games available in unprotected form, because that's the way you have to have it to play it. For me especially, I emulate it on my Ultimate Flashback, and that's my favorite way to do it. LTO Flash, you can do it with protected ones, but it's also a bit risky for these programmers to do that, because they're putting a lot of faith in the Intellivision community as a whole, because if we decide to just share those ROMs amongst each other, the programmers are going to get nothing back out of it. And for a measly $10, which is all they're asking, don't share these ROMs. Put in the $10 for Pete's sakes. You know, I'm more than willing to give them, pay them for what they've produced for me, because I just want to see more games come out in the future. I love the work that they do, and I appreciate it so much that I want to see it keep going for years to come. More and more great games, just like HELI. Well, guys, that's it for today's episode of INTY Homebrew Spotlight. I had a lot of fun looking at HELI today. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with me and Coco today. She made it through the whole video right here in the basket. And I can't wait to look at another homebrew game in the future, because there's just more and more coming all the time. Anyway, guys, until next time, you take care.
Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. If you haven't grown up by the age.
I'm Rick Reynolds of the Intellivisionaries Podcast, and you're watching Papa Pete, the Old Guy Gamer.